want me to continue with this audience, I'm also happy with that. So
I think
you make the call.
I think we have them here. We will also be posting this session on YouTube, which we can then share with those who registered but couldn't attend. I think let's go ahead. Let's do it. So welcome everybody to BrainFrame Thursday. I have a pleasure today to introduce you to Matthew Lee, one of our very cherished partners and vendors from Veeam. He's going to introduce himself. He's going to tell you what he does. And then he's going to take you through a bit of a presentation about how the Veeam solutions, what impact they can have on your organization. And yeah, just in general, a good discussion around what Veeam can offer. So I do want to just very quickly mention some housekeeping rules. You will notice that you are on mute and your cameras have been disabled. This is just for the first half of the session. Grace will unmute you and allow cameras towards the end, especially when the Q&A is upcoming. I unfortunately have to jump off to another meeting, but I leave you in the very capable hands of Grace and Matt. There will be a feedback form as well as the recording after the session so that you can share and give us feedback if you want an additional session, more in-depth talk, or anything that you see here today that you feel you need to engage with us on. So with that, without further ado, we're already a little bit over time. I'm handing over to Matt. Thank you so much, Matt. Enjoy the session, and remember, keep the questions, note them down for the end for the Q&A. And yeah, over to you, Matt.
Thanks very much, Vanessa and Grace, for setting this up, and thank you very much to everybody who was able to make it. Has it started recording, Grace?
Yes, it started recording.
It started recording. Okay, excellent. So as Vanessa correctly said, my name is Matthew Lee. I look after the cloud and hosting business for Veeam for the English-speaking South African market, and we are seeing a massive growth opportunity in Namibia at the moment. So it's really an honor for me to be able to message this to you. I am in country as well. We do have staff personnel that are managing the region as well from a client engagement perspective. So as Vanessa says correctly, if you're happy to meet or want to continue the conversations, please do let us know in your questionnaire, and we will absolutely love to come and spend some time with you. So I'm going to take you through a report that we do every year. I'm not going to take you through the entire report because it's quite a lot. But if you are after that report, there's the URL. Please do have a look at it. It is very comprehensive. What I've done in this report is I've taken 3 different versions of the report. So the data protection trends report, the cloud protection trends report, and the ransomware protection trends report. So these are the 3 aspects that are critically important from a client's perspective, from your perspective, the things that are facing you day to day. And what we're going to be covering here is I've just taken a synopsis of sort of the most important, because obviously we are limited on time. So the most important of those. But at the end, as I say, there's the link there for data protection trends. But at the end, you'll see, and I imagine you will be getting a copy of this presentation, and then or take a snapshot, print screen of the last slide, and it'll give you the QR codes to be able to download the more comprehensive report itself. So I'm going to kick off here just to tell you a little bit around what this report covered and how we kind of got the information. Normally, we don't go to such a wide audience. This last report, we went to 4,200. For a report to be successful in any kind of nature on a global scale, it typically needs to be around 1,500 and above. So our previous reports have always kind of been at that mark. What we are finding now, though, is that we also changed the audience with which we actually were interviewing. We typically have always gone after the enterprise space, but we found that that didn't speak true to all the geographical regions that Veeam covers. It would speak to more established countries and more established continents. What we've done this year is we've actually dropped it right down, and we've gone completely across a wider sphere of delegates, of what we call the data assets, the people that we've actually who have submitted their answers to our survey. And we've started right from the bottom of where we have up to from 100 staff members right through to where we have more than 20,000 staff members, employees. And you can see that it was a very comprehensive answer, which helps us, especially in our region where we're operating, because we don't have too many companies at 20,000 and above, right, in Africa. So for us, it's kind of this report and the way that Veeam did it this last year was absolutely amazing, because it was able to give us in our regions a really good understanding of what the voice of the customer is asking for. So we definitely feel that this is a more comprehensive, it's a more all-inclusive report, and it stands us in good stead when we look to the answers that we get from these customers on this kind of the solutions and the functionality and features we need to include in our technology. Sorry, so I'm just going to dive straight in. So we've asked a number of questions. As I say, the survey is built out of a number of questions, and they're kind of leading questions so that we get the answers that we kind of need to get, so that, as I say, we can build and change our technology to address that matter. So, what we've seen here is the physical center. Okay, let me first of all just show you how this report works. So as I say, this is the 2023 report, so we've gone back 4 years. But what we've also asked the respondents in 2022, we said, what do you expect 2 years later in 2024? And we asked the respondents in 2023, what do you expect later and look and anticipate the world to look like in your environment in 2025? So what we can see here is that there's definitely been a slowly steady kind of a decline with inside of the physical servers that people are purchasing. And then there's a reason for that, right? We've also seen that VMs and virtual machines that are inside of the environments are pretty much flat, and that's to be expected. What we do see here, and this speaks to a total attestament, is the growth in the hyperscale or service provider market. So that talks to the CSP market, the cloud and services providers, the people that are offering services to customers as opposed to products. And we see what we've asked them, as we said, give us a 2-year view. We see by these guys that have been reporting in 2022, they look from a 49% growth to a 52% growth in their business. And the guys in 2023, they're looking at a 47% growth to a 50% growth in their business. So it speaks to the testament of more services-based consumption, but at the same time, it doesn't discount the fact that the preceding technology, be it a VM or be it a data center, goes away. That's not the case at all. The sort of the more modern technology doesn't necessarily replace the technology that it actually has ended up replacing. So what we see here is that it's a complete hybrid environment and a complete hybrid world where people are living in this state today. And we will continue to see that. We'll definitely require data centers in on-premise. We'll definitely see VMs growing due to that data center presence that is there. And we will definitely see an increase in workloads moving to the cloud, whether that be a workload that you move in its current state, or whether it is a workload that needs to be refactored, reformatted, and actually become more of a cloud native kind of technology. That's also the case. So sometimes the system that you're running now in its legacy state, and you see a cloud technology that actually gives you more economies in your organization, you might actually be seen as changing that technology from one provider who you've used in the past to a completely now cloud native provider in the future. So it's an interesting world we live in. And at Veeam, we want to make sure that we build a technology that's to be able to protect all of that, no matter what your goal is, no matter where you are in your journey. With the protection that happens in the environment that it is, so whether you're in your data center, you're in your cloud, wherever your technology resides, we ask the respondents if they have what's called a reality gap. Now that means what they believe they have versus actually what they really do have. And you can see it's a high number of organizations that find that when we need to have when something happens and there's a need to invoke your sort of DR, we find that customers kind of think this is where we are, and we can restore it at a certain amount of time against their SLA. But then when they actually look back at the technology, they say, oh, actually we aren't there. And that's a staggering number. At 79% of those organizations actually realize we're actually not at all where we need to be. So that's around the SLA in terms of how quick they can get that data back. The other 82% is actually how much of that data, they actually do have. So they think that the organization has all this data backed up, and it's okay if they need to invoke that DR. And if they're actually 82%, well, actually we don't have all of that data. So it's another staggering number, another staggering percentage of people saying what they believe they have, and that could have come out of advice. It could have come out of technology, a legacy technology, but that hasn't moved along as your business moves along in a modern cycle, as a digital transformation cycle. So they're saying here, hang on a minute, we actually don't have all that data. So if we are hit by ransomware, if we do need to get our data back, we actually can't get our data back. So it's really staggering numbers. And this is not there to scare you. It's there just to show you that you really do need to continually look at the technology that you're looking at. Don't be that ostrich in putting head in the sand and hope, gosh, I just hope it's all going to be okay. Because it's actually, there's a strong potential that it's not going to be okay. So when we asked the same customers, the same respondents, you say, in terms of what are you looking at now? We've shared this with you, this data, and what are you looking at in terms of how are you planning for that? So what are you looking at your budget? So while we see budgets declining, as you certainly know, protection budgets, the requirement to be able to look after that data is actually increasing. And we're looking at around about a 6.5% increase overall. So looking at the respondents there, 35% of them said, absolutely, we're going to increase it. And it's going to increase by about 5 to 10%. So everybody in green is giving us that number of 85% of them saying, we will be increasing our budgets for data protection. And for that exact reason, because data resides everywhere. Data moves, data changes. The workload looks completely different now than it actually did look 5 years ago, or even last year. Your certain application that you're needing to run your business and the data that's creating will look completely different in a year's time. And as technology evolves and as technology continues to grow, and as your organizations continue to grow, the need for you to be able to have a modern protections plan is absolutely critical. So we find, actually, let me not jump down the line, and I'll show you that. But we find that technology vendors that were good 5 years ago might not be great where they need to be right now. So, what is an enterprise backup? Okay, so we've seen now that data is going to be residing on different places, data center, VMs, cloud. We're looking at actually how it's actually looking, how does a vendor like us just provide one technology and leave it up to you? We don't do that. We said, what does it actually need to be? What does it look like? How does it need to evolve? What does it mean to you? Because if we say enterprise backup, that just means backup and the word enterprise, and then people can charge more for it. No, not at all. It absolutely has to be part of your infrastructure as a service and your software as a service play. Not negating the data center. Because remember earlier, the first slide, the cloud, the infrastructure does not replace the data center. The VMs do not replace the data center. They all work together. So you absolutely have to have one tool or one solution that is able to monitor, manage, and recover that data, protect it, and recover it to whatever state you need and from whichever state it's sitting in. And it absolutely must 100% has to be reliable. It has to work. Doesn't have to work 90% of the time, doesn't have to work 95% of the time. It has to work 100% of the time. If any of you have been a Veeam, in the Veeam family, you will know we speak of the 3-2-1 rule. 3 copies of your data, 2 on different media, and 1 off-site. We actually have a 3-2-1-1-0, where we actually talk about zero fails. So this is where we go as an organization. We asked that, remember I said earlier, I'm not going to take away from what's coming down the line, but this is exactly the question. We said, would you switch your solutions? And actually the reason, why would you switch your solutions? So, when we said to them, would you, your sort of your core data backup solutions provider now, because you've got that reality gap? Is it a reality gap because you don't have the skills to maintain the solution in your organization? Or is it the fact that your organization has just outgrown the technology that provider was providing at that specific time when you looked at it and actually made that procurement decision to take that technology on board? 57% of them said we will be switching our primary backup solution this year. It's a staggering number. Again, these are people, it's not an easy thing to replace any vendor that looks after your data, because it's quite entrenched. It's like ripping off a plaster and putting on another plaster onto the same wound. A lot of people don't do that. So when you start looking and actually educating and having these conversations around, your organization doesn't look the same when you decided to take technology vendor A. Now, you need to start looking at technology vendor C, because this is where we are. This is where you are in your digital transformational journey. So 57% is a high number of people looking at making that change. And you're the change. You're the organizations giving us this information. Sorry, something wrong here. Okay. So what is driving that change? What is the reason that you're going to make that solution decision? Like I said, it's a big decision. It's not a decision to be taken lightly. You've maybe invested in some certain skills in your organization, but the fact of the matter is it flexible? And this is what we were talking about earlier on, saying it might have worked then, but it's not working now. So does it have the flexibility to evolve? Does it have the flexibility to run on different factors and form factors of the business? Is it taking into account your different, if you want to invoke a DR, you want to replace it to somewhere else. You want to take it from one public cloud provider, stick it into a local cloud provider, take it from one data center, put it into the local provider that's sitting in Namibia, or whatever the case might be. We're looking at the workload. So irrespective where you want to put it, irrespective where you need it to be, it has to be flexible. Some of those legacy systems are not flexible. They were built in a stack form, so they weren't really built on as a platform play. So these guys don't have the availability to be able to move that application where it needs to go and that data where it needs to go. Second thing, again, speaks to reliability. Can't work 95% of the time. It has to work 100% of the time. This data is your business. This data is your gold. This is your oil. This is your IP. And wherever that workload needs to be, it has to absolutely be portable. Right. Which would you consider to be defining aspects of a modern or innovative data protection solution for your organization? What's most important to you when looking at a modern or innovative data protection solution? Again, and I'm not saying this is the case with you, but most of the organizations that we have conversations with, they have different teams within inside of the company doing different jobs. You've got your application team, you've got your data team, you've got your backup admins, then you've got a security team, and inside that security team, they might be looking at everything internal, or it could be physical, could be cyber, so you've got different teams running different strategies or different goals within inside of the organization. A modern or innovative solution has to be part of that cybersecurity strategy. You'll see more and more data protection companies talking around ransomware. You know, we're a data protection company, but we are so part and so intrinsically involved in the cybersecurity divisions and strategy of any organization, because what gets hit? It's the data that gets hit. So if we can't subscribe to all of the security practice regulations that are out there, we're not doing our job, and then we're not doing our job for you. It has to be integrated into a business continuity disaster recovery solution in your organization. It speaks to itself. It absolutely has to. So modern data protection replaces that legacy data protection that you might have had for physical servers or physical workloads or VM workloads. Now, as you can see, things are getting more discombobulated. Things need to move a little bit more fast. So you need that disaster recovery solution in place, most 100%. And business continuity. Business continuity is speaking to making sure that certain portions of your business are there, that you can still continue. Disaster recovery is there to actually ensure that you're getting all your critical applications up and running and in place, so that you can run your business while the threat is being taken care of. And the last thing for a modern and innovative data solution, it needs to be cloud capable. It speaks to itself, stands to reason. It has to be for not only test or dev or kind of any kind of those workloads, but it has to be ready for your production workload. And it has to be ready to protect all of those workloads, no matter wherever they are, providing a whole bunch of orchestration for you in your hybrid environment. So another trends look at. Right? What are you doing now versus what do you expect to be doing in 2 years' time? Same kind of question. Again, you see the same years, 2020, 21, 22, 23. What are you doing now? What are you going to be doing in, we asked the respondents in 2022, what are you looking at doing in 2024? You can see the number on the dark green has dropped from 33% to 21%. What's the drop for? These are people that are utilizing backup on-premise tools currently right now. So the guys we asked last year, the customers, the data set we asked last year, 33% of them were using backup tools on-premise. 67% of them were using backup tools using a service provider. So actually, they're not necessarily buying a backup tool. They're buying backup as a service from a service provider, just like CES. So this has grown. So sorry, my mouse battery's dying on me at the moment, so I'm having to use my trackpad. So this 33% has dropped to 21%. Speaks to itself. People, and what's the reason for that decline? Is people don't have, your business is around whatever your business is. Might be retail, might be manufacturing, might be banking, whatever your business is. That's what you need to specialize on. You don't need to, as security gets and data gets more complex, you can't maintain those skills. But a partner like CES absolutely maintains those skills. They maintain those skills on behalf of us, on behalf of other security vendors, to be able to provide the solution to you. So would it not make sense that you actually just offload that and say, guys, I can't, it's too confusing for me. I'm in manufacturing. I'm making threads and needles, you know, whatever it might be. I'm in automotive. I've got to focus on that business. I can't be seen to have the complexity of looking after this. I just don't have the skills. CES, you can have the skills. So these guys are moving to a service solution that is offered via a cloud sort of CSP manner. Same thing again. We asked these guys in 2023, again a decline from 32 to 23%, growing here. So services, cloud services for sort of modern data protection is growing, and it stands to reason. Us as organizations, we get this information from we build up skills training exercises for our partners to embark on, to be able to be a trusted advisor on our technology through them to you, which obviously then makes yourselves feel a little bit more comfortable, or a lot more comfortable. You know, the solutions we provide, the tooling inside of our framework is there to be able to say, I need to ensure that I'm meeting a certain regulation in security because my data is safe. Go internally, go to CS. CS uses a Veeam solution, pulls a report. We give you that confidence that you are meeting your regulation. Or if you don't have something, we'll red mark a certain aspect of that report, and that allows you that sort of red aspect to be addressed. Same thing for cloud. So we ask the same question to these customers. What is your primary method now? And what is it going to be in 2 years' time? Again, same story. The dark green is multiple data centers and the light green is cloud infrastructures or a disaster recovery as a service provider like CES. Same story, growth and decline. So we asked the guys in 2022, they're dropping, but their services as backup as a service or disaster recovery as a service has increased from 36% to 53%, has increased in 2023 from 47% to 55% in 2025. So 47% of these organizations are utilizing services that are provided by the likes of CES as part of their disaster recovery solution. You're going to start seeing a change in language from ensure you've got the right backup to actually saying ensure you have the right recovery, because taking data and protecting data is one thing, but actually being able to provide a sure back restore is another thing. There's no use backing up data that's including a virus. You're just backing it up and then you're going to restore that data and restore the virus back in place again. Doesn't make sense. So ensuring the backup is done with a clean backup. With the Veeam solutions, we have that where we're able to interrogate that data so that nothing comes across. And then we can even predetermine the recovery in a test environment where we can do a simulated a fail back with a disaster recovery solution where we ensure that the recovery is going to be virus-free or threat-free. So it's absolutely critical that you look at not how you're doing your backup, but actually how you're doing your recovery. That's probably more important than just the backup right now. When we start talking about the workloads looking very different from today, we've seen virtualization change the landscape, change the world. What we're now seeing is the sort of, I would say, virtualization 3.0. It's all about microservices. It's all about the way that workloads are developed in microservices manner, utilizing technologies like containers. That momentum is growing. If you ask the organizations now, how much are you actually utilizing containers inside of your company right now? 92% of these are saying they're already using them, definitely in production, or even maybe in some environments where they're looking at putting it in the future. But 92% is a staggering number of people that are either utilizing it right now or looking at it for future deployments. So again, speaks to that modern data protection, that switch. Remember we said there was 57% of people who said they were going to switch their technology, or 53%, switch their vendor. It's because of the way that the world is looking at this moment in time. And again, Veeam has the solutions to adapt in taking those physical environments and the data it protects, those virtualized environments and the data it protects, and the cloud environments that have been created and the data that protects, and most certainly the container aspect as well. We bought a company about 4 years ago called Carsten. It is the leader in container data protection, application mobility as well. So you've got two of the best leaders. You've got Veeam, who is now for the 7th consecutive quarter in the Magic Quadrant. You would have seen the report come out. I think it came out yesterday, the day before yesterday, of Veeam being 7th consecutive quarters in the Magic Quadrant as a leader. And you've got Carsten in the Magic Quadrant as well as a leader. You've got those two organizations that are now under one company. You can rest assured that your data is protected in the most seamless and easy to use manner. That just speaks. Oh, right. This is actually quite impressive. So of those organizations, everybody would think the larger organizations are utilizing these in production. And it does speak to itself. And it actually says most of the highly regulated companies, typically banks, can you imagine, hey, open source technology, containers, highly regulated companies like banks and financial institutions are the ones that are spearheading the adoption, spearheading the change. And they're the ones that are actually doing, most of them making the acquisitions of containers for their microservices development. So yeah, it's there. You can see it. Quite interesting slideshow on the right there. Right. This is this is a slide no one likes to show. It's not a scare tactic, but it certainly is something that people need to actually realize. It's like retirement planning. You don't want to get there in the end of the year and you find out, hang on a minute, we haven't done our job properly. We're going to rely on our kids. This is exactly what the reason to start looking at ransomware protection is there to do. So 85% of organizations have suffered at least one attack. Those poor buggers sitting there who have hit 6 times or more are obviously slow learners and not really making any changes. Because when you are presented with the facts, okay, you've been hit by ransomware on whatever sort of land zone that you've given or that was vulnerable, make the change and make the change quick. Get the guys involved to actually do some sort of reporting. What we do now is we do like a preemptive recognizing of what a ransomware looks like inside of our tool sets. Classic example would be in your usage reports in our tool Veeam 1, where we provide a lot of orchestration and monitoring. If you all of a sudden trending nicely on storage usage, and then all of a sudden, poof, there's a spike in storage usage, that's easy for you to say, okay, hang on, why was that? Why did that happen all of a sudden? Let's go and interrogate why that happened. And that's typically some sort of vulnerability that's entered into your organization. And those are the kind of things that we do. We've got 380 prescribed alerts, and you can still customize even more alerts that you need. So if you need an alert for storage bleep bump in the system, if you need an alert for somebody's, if you only operate between 8 and 5 in the afternoon in the day, and somebody's accessing your data at 10 at night, get an alert. You know, those are just the simple ones. We've got 380 of those predetermined, predefined, all ready to roll. And as I say, you can even create more alerts as well. So not a scare tactic, not a scare slide, but definitely something that is there for you to consider. You're not getting hit once. You're not getting hit twice. You could be hit 3, 4, 5, and like I say, those poor guys at 6 or more. But this is something that some people say it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I don't like to say that because you can address the when right now by making the right decisions in your technology that you're looking at. And these are the reports with which I got all of that information from. The ransomware, the cloud, and the data protection. We do have a fourth report in there, but I didn't include any of that data inside of this presentation, and that's our Salesforce protection trend. Any of you are running Salesforce in your organizations, definitely want to look at, because there is a lot of perception that people are offloading their running of their Salesforce to the Salesforce cloud, and that they're going to look after it. It's not the case. It's just like Microsoft 365, where people think Microsoft is looking after protecting your data. It's not the case. They're going to protect the infrastructure. They're going to protect everything that is needed to deliver Microsoft 365 or Salesforce, but you as an organization are still responsible for the data that's created and what happens internally. So please, this is interesting. Take a snapshot of this and scan those QR codes in, and you can then download the full reports. And that was all from me. And I'm open to questions. Any questions? Nothing in the chat. Can you hear me? Grace is typing. Okay, perfect. And you saw the slides because I've just clicked back and I see my share button, unless somebody took that share away. Was I sharing my slides, Grace? Okay, perfect. Okay, wonderful. Well, do you want to mute the people, Grace, and then we can ask any verbal questions, or if there are no verbal questions, I'll send the slide deck to Grace in a PDF format, and who's then welcome to send it to you as well. Okay. I hope you found it informative. I hope that you maybe learned a lot, or maybe you already knew all of this stuff. There's a question or a chat coming in from Michael. Perfect. I'm glad you enjoyed it there, Michael. Kathleen, thank you very much. Just always a little bit awkward when you're talking and no one's talking back to you, so you kind of got to. It's like somebody presenting on a stage or a comedian. All right. Well, then I will bid you farewell. Michael is saying something. Yeah. I'll send the slides to Grace now, and then Grace can forward it on to the two, because she will have everybody's email. Wonderful. Well, then, thank you very much, everybody. Have yourself a wonderful rest of the day, and then have a lovely weekend. And if anybody wants to have any face-to-face meetings with us, we are in Namibia often. If anybody wants to uncover a little bit more or get us involved with any conversations that you're needing to have, please do feel free to get us involved, and we will happily meet with you. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful day further. I don't know if this is a question. Okay. Gottlieb, absolutely. Please arrange with Grace, and then Grace can get hold of us. We're actually coming up towards the end of August. So if that we can fit you in then, that'll be wonderful. Okay. Cheers all. Bye-bye.